Good morning and welcome to the Daily Connect. Just want to make sure. All right, we're live. Good morning and welcome to the Daily Connect. My name is Raymond and I'm so glad you could be a part of this time together. Looking at God's Word, seeing where the Lord is leading us, where the Lord is calling us to be. We are going through the book of Numbers and we've been focusing on this season where the nation of Israel is getting ready to, or actually by this point, they are moving it towards the promised land, only to be stopped short by their number of rebellions, the rebellion against God ultimately, and how this generation of Israelites will not see the promised land, or they will not enter into the promised land. But nonetheless, it's Friday. It is the start of what I call WOW, or Weekend of Worship. I'm excited. I'm excited about worship. And in fact, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Our approach to worship, some of the things that we may want to have in mind with regards to worship. If you love worship of God, I want you to put that in the live chat. Just type in "I love worship." Worship of God is one of those things that really is not. It's not merely about how we feel. It's not how it makes us feel. Worship is really to be a response to who God is and what God is doing in our lives, and a reflection of our gratitude and our heart's desire to want to give our very best over to the Lord. And that worship comes in the form of song, of music, of service, of our tithes and offerings. It comes in many forms. But the important thing is, it is not about us. Worship is about God. And if you love worship of God, again, just type in there, I love worship. I love worship of God. Or whatever it may be, but just show that you love worship. All right. Good morning to each and every one of you. Joanna, Missy, Vince, Rich, Jeanette. Thank you so much did I say Missy? Yes, I did. Missy. Thank you guys. And Jean, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for sharing that you love worship. And again, I don't want you to just type it in for the sake of typing it in. But if you truly love worship of God, not for how it makes you feel, although that is a good byproduct, worshiping God because you love the Lord, just share that in the live chat. All right, enough of that. Let's get into it. We're looking at Numbers chapter 18 today. So open your Bibles, grab something warm to drink, pull up a comfortable chair, and let's take a look at Numbers 18. We're just going to look at the first 19 verses today. And let's see what the Lord has to say. So again, we're looking at the book of Numbers. This is towards the beginning of the Bible. If you're joining for the first time, this is one of the first series of books of the Bible that was written by or penned by Moses. And today we're looking at Numbers chapter 18. I titled this "Protecting the Worship and Ministers, Guarding the Sanctuary and its Workers." Numbers chapter 18, verses 1 through 19. And again, there's actually so many different layers to look at here, but one of the things that we have been focusing on as we've been going through the book of Numbers, this element of worship that just keeps coming up over and over. How the tribes organize themselves around worship, how the Levites are literally assigned specific tasks to manage the sanctuary and the walls and the poles that support the walls, transporting them, setting them up. Everything seems to revolve around worship. Today we're going to be looking at the roles of the priests and, in a sense, compensation for the priests. Well, let's take a look, starting from verse 1. So the Lord said to Aaron, "You and your sons and your father's house with you shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear iniquity connected with your priesthood. And with you bring your brothers also, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. They shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent, and you shall not come near to the vessels of the sanctuary or to the altar, lest they die and you die. They shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. And you shall keep guard over the sanctuary and over the altar, that there may never be again wrath on the people of Israel. And behold, I have taken your brothers, the Levites, from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to the Lord to do the service of the tent of meeting. And you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood with all that concerns the altar and that is within the veil, and you shall serve. I give your priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall be put to death. All right, wow, there's a lot of things going on here, so let's take a look. First, and again, I'm going to share some of my notes along the way. My whole goal is to try to bridge that gap between Scripture and the reader, and what's just some of my notes, some of my study of this. So the first thing that I noticed here is that God speaks directly to Aaron. God is not speaking to Moses, who then speaks to Aaron, who then speaks to the Levites. This is God speaking directly with Aaron, and he gives Aaron specific instructions and responsibilities about the priesthood and about the altar. These are roles and responsibilities for the priests and for the Levites. The focus here is protecting the holiness and purity of the sanctuary, as well as the priesthood, from all those who are not divinely appointed or who bring forth unclean sacrifices. Again, everything regarding the holiness and the purity of the sanctuary, of the altar, of the tent of meeting, needs to be guarded. And if you've read this before, you'll recognize there's actually layers of security here. You've got the high priest and the priests, Aaron and his sons, protecting the things that are most holy, the Ark of the Covenant, the sanctuary itself, the Holy of Holies, because no one is supposed to go in there other than those who are divinely appointed and ordained. Those who violate that, they will bear the consequences, and it seems quite clear that consequence, that penalty, is death. There's this mention about the Father's house, or not the Father's house, his Father's house, your Father's house. Is God referring to the Kohathites? And again, Aaron and Moses are descendants of, or descendants within the tribe of Kohath, and so is God referring to just the Kohathites? Are the Kohathites to be the brothers that God is referring to, that are supposed to protect Aaron and the sons, or is this referring to all of the tribes? All of the tribes of Levi that are supposed to guard over Aaron and his sons? Most likely, it is the latter. The Kohathites, the Gershonites, and the Merarites. They are all to rally around and protect. Basically, guard over worship. They're in charge of worship. They're in charge of transporting the worship, and they're in charge of making sure that not only is Aaron and his sons are supported, but they are protected so that they can do their job. And in doing so, in them upholding the holiness and the purity of the sanctuary and the protection of Aaron and his sons, and the protection of the sanctuary itself, no wrath will come upon the people of Israel. Everything that we've talked about up to this point, we've seen a number of rebellions, people that have challenged Moses and Aaron, they wanting to have that priesthood role. And not just for the sake of doing the role, but to want to have that authority, that power. They need to be. They're considered outsiders, and to keep the wrath from coming upon the people of Israel, these rebels need to be kept out. We also see this layered protection over worship. First, the high priests and the priests, they're to guard over one layer of worship, and then the tribes of Levi, they're to guard over another layer of worship. And each group, in a sense, hold this huge responsibility of making sure that worship is done right. Let's continue. Verse 8. Then the Lord spoke to Aaron, "Behold, I have given you charge of the contributions made to me, all the consecrated things of the people of Israel. I have given them to you as a portion, and to your sons as a perpetual due." So again, here, God speaks to Aaron directly, and what God is talking about here actually should not be any surprise to us, because these are things that are mentioned in the book of Leviticus, in the book of Exodus, when the Lord commanded through Moses about, hey, here's what you do with these offerings. Here's what you do with these things that you bring for worship, and a portion is going to be set aside for the tribe of Levi, because number one, they don't own. They're not going to be given the opportunity to own land. Their sole focus is on worship and on the sanctuary, and so as a result, they are to be taken care of by other means, since they don't have land. And so special provisions are to be made for the priesthood, and a lot of that is going to be coming from these provisions, these that come from these offerings that are brought before the Lord. So the people are going to be bringing their offerings to the Lord for a number of reasons, whether it's a peace offering, a fellowship offering, not so much as a sin offering and the I just blanked out, burnt offering. So some of the offerings, they are to be burned completely and then removed, but then there are others, especially the fellowship and the peace offerings. There is a portion that is dedicated to the Levites, to Moses and Aaron, and what God is sharing here is practically a reassurance to Aaron and his sons and the Levites. I got you covered. I will take care of you. I am the one who will provide for you. Verse 9. This shall be yours of the most holy things, reserved from the fire. Every offering of theirs, every grain offering of theirs, and every sin offering of theirs, and every guilt offering of theirs, which they render to me, shall be most holy to you and to your sons. In a most holy place you shall eat it. Every male may eat it. It is holy to you. So again, the most holy things, the holy of holy things, these are provided for the priests, and they're to be basically consumed within the tent of meeting. As they are ministering, as they are bringing these offerings before the Lord, as it's being put on the big bronze altar, a portion of that is given over to the males here. Okay, but let's not worry about the rest of the family yet. But here, this is the most holy of holies of things are offered to God first, and then a portion is given to the priests. And in fact, God would say all of it, essentially what remains, what is set aside is for the priests, for the priesthood and all the males. And a portion of the grain offering, and if you recall from even just earlier, just a couple chapters earlier, talking about in addition to these sacrifices that you bring, there's going to be this grain offering and this drink offering, and a portion of that is burned as a fragrant offering to the Lord. But then the balance of that is given over to the priests. Verse 11. This also is yours, the contribution of their gift, all the wave offerings of the people of Israel. I have given them to you and to your sons and daughters with you as a perpetual due. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. All the best of the oil and all the best of the wine and of the grain, the first fruits that of what they give to the Lord, I give to you. The first ripe fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring to the Lord, shall be yours. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. Every devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. Everything that opens the womb of all flesh, whether man or beast, which they offer to the Lord, shall be yours. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man you shall redeem, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. And the redemption price at a month old you shall redeem them. You shall fix at 5 shekels in silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerahs. But the firstborn of a cow, or the firstborn of a sheep, or the firstborn of a goat, you shall not redeem. They are holy. You shall sprinkle their blood on the altar, and shall burn their fat as a food offering, with a pleasing aroma to the Lord. But their flesh shall be yours, as the breast that is waved, and as the right thigh are yours. So again, if you've been following along, you'll recall there are a lot of other different offerings that are brought before the Lord. There's that wave offering. There's the drink offering, and there's this grain offering. There's offering of the first fruits and the firstborn. All these are given over to the Lord. You know, again, from the perspective of the people, they are giving these first and foremost over to the Lord. And then at the same time, that which is presented before the Lord then gives over to the priests. So the firstborn, the first fruits and the firstborn are included in this contribution to the priests. Now, this latter part here, all of these contributions is open to the entire family. And so you see that the family is taken care of, men and women, as long as they are clean, as long as they, for instance, they haven't touched a dead body, which requires them to go through a purification process. But nonetheless, they are to partake in all of this. The family is also taken care of. Sacrificial elements as a special presentation. Again, the peace offering, the wave offering, these are also given over to the Lord, and the Lord gives it over to the ministers here. And only those who are ritually and ceremonially clean in the household of Aaron, which includes the females, are allowed to partake in these offerings. Now, as you're reading this, one thing ought to strike you. They're traveling right now. They're marching through the wilderness. They're not going to have this grain necessarily. They don't own land right now. So the assumption here is that once they have entered into the promised land, after 40 years of wandering, and as the people work the land, they are going to have this harvest. And this harvest is then, what are you going to do with this first fruit? Well, this is what you do with it. You present it before the Lord, and the Lord shares that, gives that over to the priesthood and their families. This mention about the redemption of the firstborn ought to sound familiar, because this is something that was mentioned all the way back in Numbers, Numbers chapter 3, talking about the substitution, the price that is set for this firstborn. But if you've been following along in the book of Numbers, you'll also remember that that God has also set the Levites aside as that firstborn for the people of Israel. So we want to make sure we don't mix these things together. It's not one thing is exempt from another, but there is this set price for the firstborn, and the Levites also represent or take the place of the firstborn of Israel of that moment, of that time. And the balance, whatever people that were not, whatever firstborn were not covered, they were there was a set price of 5 shekels as well for each of their heads. But anyhow, all of this to say provisions for the ministers. We also see that certain firstborn are not redeemable, and these are typically ones that are going to be sacrificed. These are sacrificable. I think there's such a word, and they're rendered over to God. Well, let's continue. Verse 19. All the holy contributions that the people of Israel present to the Lord, I give to you, and to the sons and daughters with you, as a perpetual due. It is a covenant of salt, forever before the Lord, for you and your offspring with you. So again, this is a summary of everything that the Lord has shared before and right now. This is a summary. I'm going to take care of you. All these things that are being brought as a tribute from Israel, from the people, given over to God, are going to be then given over to the families of the priests, to the priests and their families. And this is something that is a perpetual due. This is not just a one-time thing. It is not just for a limited time. It is for all time. This mention of covenant of salt, the understanding has to be through the context of that century of the Old Testament reader. A covenant of salt. What is salt used for? It's used as a preservative. It's used to preserve food because they didn't have refrigeration, and so this is a covenant of salt. This is a covenant that is to be preserved. A relationship between God and the priesthood. Wow. So what are we learning about worship here? For me, my big takeaway is this. Worship leaders are to be taken care of, them and their family. In fact, if you were to bring this into the modern day context, we really ought to be taking care of the worship, the praise team, the worship team. Not that they deserve it, but because this is what God has said is due to them. But more than that, the worship team, the praise team, has this awesome responsibility of guarding the holiness of worship. I cannot emphasize enough about this importance of worship and how holy it is, and how we are to preserve the holiness, how we are not allowed to be profaned or defiled. Hopefully, the praise teams, the worship teams of all of these different churches, they are stepping up and they are guarding against anything that is not right in the place of worship. And then at the same time, the body of believers need to be taken care of, need to be providing for, supporting these worship leaders, these praise teams. Again, this may sound self-serving, but it really needs to be that important, because God is holy. Worship is holy. Worship ought to be holy. And there needs to be guardians of that worship. And that first layer of protection begins with myself, with all of us, with everyone who is going to step up and protect worship. Amen. All right. Once again, thank you everyone for sharing in this time together. And and I hope you have an opportunity to kind of reflect on just these 18 verses that we've looked at. You know, we're again, you could kind of see where worship is and how it's supposed to be taken care of. Yes, worship is about God. Thank you, Gene. And you know, our roles collectively is to really protect that worship, to step in and say, you know what, we're going to make sure that the profane, the things that are defiled do not come into the presence of God. We want to, I mean, even regarding our own hearts, we need to make sure that we are right before the Lord, and we are taking care of those who are serving the Lord in the capacity of worship. You know, here, in a sense, the worship leaders, they carry an awesome responsibility. Aaron and the sons, they carry this awesome responsibility. If they fail in their responsibility, they die. If they fail in in a sense, running protection for the sanctuary, and they fail, that comes upon them. The wrath upon the people is also rests upon their work. There's a lot hinging on these roles and these responsibilities. So I hope we bring that into the modern day context, and that we treat worship as something that we need to protect, something that we need to guard over, and support those who are guarding over worship. All right. Anyhow, I'm going off once again on this, but I hope you have a great day going into this weekend of worship. Let's make sure that worship is at the forefront of all that we do. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining on this journey. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.